You've seen the boiler room in the movies, a room full of guys in cheap suits screaming into phones, selling strangers a stock that's secretly garbage. Here's what the movies never told you. That room never closed. It just got out of the office and into your pocket. Right now, a total stranger can take a worthless little stock, make it look like a rocket, sell it to you at the top, and walk away rich. Same scam that's been running for 100 years. One difference. Back then, it was a crime. Today, a lot of it is perfectly, boringly legal. And the thing that makes it legal? 3 little words. 3 words of fine print that turn a scam into a business. I'll tell you exactly what they are, but not yet. First, let me show you how the trap actually works, because once you see it, you'll start spotting it in your own feed before this video is over. Start with the trick itself. It's old, and it's simple. The most popular kid in school walks up and whispers, "Buy every pack of these trading cards at lunch. Trust me, by Friday, they'll be worth a fortune." So everybody runs and buys. The price shoots up, and then, quietly, that popular kid sells his giant pile of cards at the top to the very crowd he just got excited. Friday comes. The cards are worth nothing. He's rich. You're holding a stack of cardboard. That's the whole scam. It even has a name. You make a cheap thing look hot. You get a crowd to pile in and pump the price up. Then you dump your pile on them. It's called a pump and dump. And the people left at the top, holding the worthless thing, have a name too. The bag holders. Don't worry, you'll meet them again, probably in the mirror. For 100 years, this ran on telephones, a room full of salesmen, cold calling strangers, pushing junk stocks nobody else would touch. Loud, illegal, and honestly, easy to catch. The phones got tapped, the offices got raided, the famous ones went to prison. So you'd think the scam died. It didn't. It did something smarter. It got an upgrade. Why pay a room full of salesmen to call one stranger at a time when you can reach 1 million strangers from your couch for free? So the boiler room fired the phone room, and it hired the algorithm. The new salesman doesn't wear a suit. He doesn't even have a face. He's a friendly voice in your feed. The newsletter with the hot stock tip, the group chat with the alert, the post that says, "I found the next big one." And the pitch isn't a threat anymore. It's a favor. It sounds like a buddy letting you in on a secret. "Look, not financial advice, but I'm loading up on this one. Early, you didn't hear it from me." Feels good, doesn't it? Somebody likes you enough to share the secret. But here's the first thing they never tell you. That friendly voice is usually getting paid. There's a whole industry for it, with a polite name, stock promotion. A company, or the insiders who own it, quietly hand someone money or shares to go out and get people excited. The tip isn't a tip, it's an ad wearing a friend's voice. And here's the part that should bother you. Even when it's perfectly legal, the promoter isn't paid to love any product. He's handed the stock itself, cheap. So he isn't really pushing a product at all. He's pushing the stock. Why? So he can sell his own shares into the very crowd he gets excited. He makes the claims, he pumps the price, and the moment enough people pile in, he and the insiders quietly sell and leave the crowd holding the bag. You were never the customer. You were the exit. Now, you'd think paying a stranger to secretly hype a stock would be flat out illegal. Here's the twist that runs this whole machine. It's only illegal if he hides that he got paid. The law is almost funny about it. You can take money to talk up a stock all day long. The one thing you have to do is say you were paid for it out loud. And how much, cash or shares, doesn't matter. Just disclose it. Hide the payment, and it's a crime. Whisper the payment, and it's just business. And here's a detail people get backwards. You'll hear you can't pay these promoters in cash, so they pay them in stock instead. Not quite. Cash is perfectly legal as long as it's disclosed. The real reason a promoter loves getting paid in the stock itself is darker. Hand a man a pile of the very shares he's about to hype for almost nothing, and now his payday rides on the pump. The higher he drives the price, the more his free shares are worth, and he is first in line to sell them. So, why does anyone want a worthless little stock to soar? Follow the cheap shares, the people who own this thing, the founders, the early insiders. The promoter got their shares for next to nothing. They don't actually want a good company. They want a high price to sell into. You, buying at the top, are how they cash out. But they can't always sell the second they'd like to. There are speed bumps. If the company just went public, insiders sign something called a lockup, a promise not to sell for a stretch, usually about 6 months. And cheap insider shares come with a holding rule named Rule 144. You have to sit on them 6 months to a year before you're allowed to sell them to the public. So the scam becomes a clock. Wait out the speed bump, build the hype, and the very moment the gate lifts and you're finally allowed to sell, dump everything into the crowd you whipped up. Here's the engine underneath all of it, and it's the most important idea in this video: supply and demand. A stock's price is nothing more than a tug of war. Buyers pulling one way, sellers pulling the other. More buyers than sellers, the price goes up. More sellers than buyers, it goes down. That's the whole machine. Now, the slice of a company actually available to trade has a name: the float. A giant company has a massive float, an ocean of shares. One person can't move an ocean. But a tiny company, the float is a puddle, barely any shares out there to buy. Thin float, almost nothing for sale. Perfect. And that's the setup. The promoter floods that puddle with a wave of excited buyers, and there's almost nothing to actually buy. So the price doesn't climb, it rockets. Not because the company got better that morning, just a flood of demand crashing into a tiny supply. Then the trap snaps shut in reverse. The insiders dump their pile, and suddenly the puddle is drowning in shares for sale. At the same moment, the promotion goes quiet and the buyers vanish. Supply explodes, demand disappears, and the price falls out of the sky just as fast as it flew. And that friendly voice that kicked it all off, he's already gone, leaving the crowd one last cheery message on his way out the door. So proud of this community. Whatever you do, don't sell. I'm out. The crowd at the top is left holding shares worth almost nothing. Selling your own pile into the hype you created has a name. It's called scalping. And the crowd standing there buying exactly what the insider is dumping has a name too: the exit liquidity. The way out for the people who got in early. That's you, the last one through the door before it shuts. Because the real fuel isn't the stock, it's the crowd. You see 10 people piling in, posting arrows, shooting up, screaming that it's breaking out, and the careful part of your brain goes quiet while an older part whispers, if everyone's buying, it must be real. That fear of being the one left out is the engine, and nowhere does it run hotter than in crypto, where a coin can have nothing behind it. No company, no product, just a name, a mascot, and an army of accounts shouting to the moon at the same time. Crypto even added a darker ending. Sometimes the makers don't bother selling slowly. They wait for the crowd to pour money in, then yank all of it out at once and vanish. The coin hits zero in seconds. They pull the floor out from under you. It's got a perfect name: a rug pull. One more piece. Where does this happen? Not to the giant companies you've heard of. You can't pump those. Too big, too watched, too many shares. What the scam needs is something small, cheap, and barely watched. And there's far more of that than you'd think. Down there, you've got penny stocks, shares of tiny companies, often under $5, sometimes just pennies. Most don't trade on the big exchanges at all. They change hands over the counter. You'll see it shortened to OTC, a looser corner where almost nothing is required of them. Barely any information to check, barely anyone watching, and a tiny float. For a pumper, that is paradise. Now, you might think the big exchange, the Nasdaq, is the safe, grown-up part of the market. And for the giants up there, it is. They're simply too big to push. But the Nasdaq is also packed with tiny, freshly listed companies that barely trade, and those get pumped too, all the time. Because the trick was never really about which exchange you're on. It's about finding something small with a float thin enough that almost nobody is watching. Wherever that is, the pump follows. And if you think this is rare, it isn't. That boiler room from the movies at the start? It was real. The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, ran a pump and dump out of a firm called Stratton Oakmont on cheap penny stocks until it collapsed and he went to prison. The FBI once busted another penny stock ring that robbed people in 35 countries out of $140 million. And those are just two names. The list goes on and on and on. So, surely all of this is illegal. Buy in secret, hype a crowd, dump on them, delete the posts. Some of it is, but the smartest players found a loophole big enough to drive a Lamborghini through, and you already know what it is. The 3 words I promised you, dropped in tiny letters at the bottom of the post, paid promotion, or sponsored, or buried in a caption, I was compensated. Say the magic words, and the exact same move, quietly own it, hype it to a crowd, sell into them, stops being a scheme, and becomes an ad. The line between fraud and a totally legal promotion was never whether the thing is junk or whether the crowd gets hurt. It's whether the salesman mumbled 3 words on his way to the bank. And this is happening right now to people with far more followers than the guy in your group chat. A few years back, regulators went after famous names for hyping crypto coins without clearly saying they'd been paid. Take Kim Kardashian. She promoted a coin called Ethereum Max to her hundreds of millions of followers, and she'd been paid $250,000 for that one post without ever making it clear. She settled with the government for about $1.26 million, a very expensive Instagram story. That same year, regulators charged a whole lineup of stars for the same move: Lindsay Lohan, Jake Paul, Soulja Boy. And it's not just celebrities. Here's the one that looks exactly like your feed. A Discord group called Atlas Trading built a following of hundreds of thousands across social media and even a podcast. Regulators say they ran the playbook move for move. Buy quietly, hype hard to their own followers, sell into the spike, then delete the posts. The alleged haul? $114 million. Now, be careful here, because the story isn't over. 8 of them were charged. A judge threw the case out. Then an appeals court brought it back. As of today, nobody in that case has been convicted, and the fight is still going. So, I'm not telling you they're guilty. I'm telling you what the boiler room looks like now. Not a strip mall office full of phones, a group chat full of friends, and it doesn't get rated. It gets followers. Now, to be fair, let's lay the line out plainly. Picture a normal business. A deli says, "Our sandwich is the best in town. Everyone loves it. Come try one." You buy the sandwich, you eat it, and if it's good, you're happy, and they made a sale. They sold you a real thing, a product. Stock promotion isn't that. They're not selling you a product or a service or anything you'll ever use. They're selling you a stock, and the only reason they want you to buy is so they can sell their own shares into the wave of buyers they just whipped up. So once enough people pile in, the promoters and the insiders quietly sell. The promotion goes quiet, the price drops, and everyone loses. Everyone except the promoters and the insiders, whose whole goal from the very first post was to unload their shares onto you. And the strangest part, as long as they whisper that they were paid, a lot of this stays perfectly legal. So we're not here to tell you it's a crime. We're here to hand you the facts and let you be the judge. So here's the trap. All the way through. The scam that built the boiler room never died. It traded the cheap suit for a profile picture, the telephone for an algorithm, and the crime for a disclaimer. Same trick, better disguise, 100 times the reach. Remember the gears by their real names. Someone gets paid to promote a stock, often in cheap shares, so their payday rides on the pump. They pick something tiny with a thin float, so a little buying moves it a lot. They build a crowd because demand crashing into tiny supply sends the price flying. And the moment their holding period is up, they sell into that crowd, turning everyone who showed up into the exit liquidity. The only thing standing between all of that and a prison cell is whether whether they whispered paid promotion on the way out the door. But here's the one thing they can't take from you. The way out is a single question. When a stranger is suddenly very excited for you to buy something, you ask the one thing they never want to hear. If it's really that good, why are you telling me? If this finally made the scam in your feed make sense, subscribe. That's the whole channel. Because the most dangerous tip was never the one a stranger had to call you up and whisper. It's the one that comes to you with a smile, a rocket emoji, and 3 little words of fine print.